Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice.
Hey everybody, Chad Madden here with the Grow Your Practice podcast, and I am pumped for our episode today. We bring back Doug Adams with RunDNA and the Omega Project. Welcome back here to the podcast, Doug.
Chad, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Awesome. So a lot that we want to talk about. The big difference for everybody is last time, I think when you were on the pod, we were not yet implementing RunDNA. Now we have a full RunDNA lab, probably about 20 yards behind me in the store over my right shoulder. And it's going really well. And I want to share one story with you about what it's meant for our practice. So yesterday I was in the gym. I go to a jiu-jitsu and judo gym on 6 a.m. class because I'm weird and I have a lot of kids. And it's really the only time I can work out. So
my time too. Yep.
Yeah, you have to get out of the way then. So I was leaving the gym, walking out of the locker room, and there's a young guy ran over to me. I think he's 19 or 20. And he was like, "Hey, what's that running thing that you just added in at your clinic?" And like a couple of things came out of that conversation. One is he's coming in. This is a guy that I've known for 2 or 3 years, friends of the family. But all of a sudden it gave him something to hang his hat on. Like, oh, this is what they do that is different than anything else that I've heard of in the past. And so really, really cool stuff. Thank you for making that happen. I know you put a lot of time in with our staff and helping us roll it out with our champions. So thanks for everything you're doing there.
Chad, that's an awesome story too, because it's like that is like you can utilize technology, whether it's ours or other people's or things like that. Like getting people excited about physical therapy is such a magic thing to happen there, because people aren't always excited to go to a physical therapy clinic. It's like, oh, I failed, I got injured, or I did things like that. But they're like, what's that running thing? Like, I'm really curious what you can do for me. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And he is a runner and he wants to run faster and he's very goal oriented. So that'll be great. For our listeners that aren't quite familiar with what RunDNA is, if there's somebody new, can you walk through exactly what what you're doing with RunDNA, running analysis and gait analysis as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually started as an education company, and RunDNA's mission is really just to help people get the maximum value of the movements that they love so that they can live these long, happy, healthy lives. We have this mission we call 100 Happy Healthy, where people are living long, healthy lives and they're enjoying it because they can still run, they can still go out for walks, they can still do the things that are part of their personality. So we started actually more on the education side, teaching people how to evaluate running form, how to look at people's walking, how to get to the most important aspects of it, because gait can be hard, it can be complex, but if you know what to look for and you know how to prioritize it and give somebody personalized instructions, it's really easy to get great results. And it doesn't have to take long. Like, I just taught a course out in Chicago, and it was one of our live skills. And we had the owner there who is hosting the course, and they're a Helix 3D user. And she comes to me and we're setting up the equipment. We're like, hey, let's just set it up and run it through. And I was like, do you want me to evaluate your gait? She's like, yeah, actually, I've been having this right calf pain for a while and I'm trying to qualify for Boston right now. And I can't run because my calf hurts a lot. So we get her up on there and I asked her, I was like, have you evaluated your gait yet? She's like, no, I haven't markered myself up. So we put her on there. It takes 2 minutes to put the markers on. We evaluate it. And there's this visualization of a chart, kind of like a body diagram. And everything's green until you get to her right ankle, right where she's having the calf pain there. Lights up red like a Christmas tree, right? So we go ahead and we look at it, and it shows us that she's staying supinated on that right side, where she's not going into any pronation. She's just all on the outside of her foot. So I said, all right, hey, do a squat real quick for me. She does, foot rotates out. Okay. Do you get, like, where do you feel it? She's like, kind of in the front of my ankle. So I manipulate her ankle. I spend 2 or 3 minutes mobilizing her, get her back on the treadmill. her score drops significantly. She has zero pain. And in 6 minutes, we went from somebody that was worried she wasn't able to run a step to like, I'm back on track to running my Boston qualifier. And that's the value of Gait and the crucial part that is missing from a lot of plans of care.
Yeah, love it. I know you and I have talked about, I think it was on the last episode or maybe at one of our events that we've been at together, but we've talked about how, at least when I went through 25 years ago through like Cincinnati sports medicine, and we're analyzing like, baseball swings or golf swings or throwing motions or running, whatever the human movement is, there was a lot of disagreement on what actually is going on. And with your technology, that it completely takes that away. And it allows us to get to the root cause faster and ultimately, create more meaningful change, just like you shared, just what happened in Chicago.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. Like part of that course we were teaching in Chicago too is getting people emotionally bought into that, like the client that you're saying too, and getting them prepared. Like we teach our clients, like education is a huge part of what we do. We kind of ask them, how is your limitation in your running or walking affecting your life? Right. And then the next follow-up question, we say, well, what impact would it have if we could get to the root cause so that we not only fix this time, but prevent the future?
Yeah.
And then the third question is, okay, what are you willing to do to fix this? Like, what will you do? And when it's presented that way, people have this immediate buy-in where they realize, wow, this is really affecting my life, and I'll do whatever it takes to get this to be done with.
Yeah. I want to get into your questioning because it's amazing. And we'll talk more about that. But I want to get into the why behind adding RunDNA, running analysis and gait analysis, and why that's important now. So I know you and I have talked a lot about, declining reimbursement for insurance-based clinics, upward pressure on our cost to provide care, pretty significant. Since 2019, I think it's 32.5%. Is what I'm seeing online with increased employment costs, space costs, et cetera. That really puts an owner behind the 8 ball with shrinking profit margins, and they're having to work harder and harder just to keep their doors open. Can you talk a little bit about why and how an owner should be thinking through adding cash-based technological services, treatment technology, diagnostic technology to their practice in order not only to survive, but help more people leave a bigger impact?
Yeah. I mean, I think whenever you're adding, right, technology or services or skill sets or things like that, you got to think about, who are you serving? What problem are you solving? And how are you offering value as part of that? I love you, Justin, so we can see the RunDNA t-shirt here.
The RunDNA in there. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. We got to get RunDNA shirt. They're the softest shirts. They're great. But as we're adding these cash-based services and adding these things, right, we want to take control of things. I think a lot of people are starting to view this as things that are necessary, where before it was something that was considered nice to do, or maybe things are going well, so what can we do to expand? And now it is shifted to, what can we do to survive? How can we go ahead? And did we talk about this on the webinar last night, the Chili's analogy? Right?
Oh, I don't remember that. Yeah.
Oh, so Chili's is making a comeback, right? Have you seen this? So Chili's, the restaurant, they are making a comeback because it's $10.99 for a burger, a drink, and fries for lunch. And comparison-wise, a Big Mac meal is like $12 or $13. So they're actually seeing that they are a lower price. But the reason that they've seen is they get people come in, but Chili's is the #1 seller of margaritas.
Nice.
They are selling a ton of high profit margin margaritas that once they have people in the door and they're thirsty, it's like, wouldn't that burger be a little nicer with a nice cold margarita there?
Yeah.
And it's almost every industry offers that. And I think there's some hesitancy in the medical space of offering those things. And you really, when you're picking it, I think it's important that it's something that you truly believe in. And that's why something like Gait is Gait is something that touches every single one of our clients' lives, almost everyone, right? If they're walking, if they're running, if they're an athlete, if they're not an athlete, Gait, whether they're walking or running, is critical for what they're doing. And it is something that Gait reveals all.
Yeah.
That example that I gave earlier, it showed us, and when we looked a little bit further, her perineals were actually what was bothering her because she was staying way on the outside of the foot.
Yeah.
So all the needling she had done for her calf and things like that didn't really make that much of a difference because it was actually the perineals, and it's because she's staying out there. So when you're offering high amounts of value, it's not something that is viewed as like dirty word selling. It is something that you're just delivering more value, and you should be reimbursed appropriately for the value that you're delivering.
Yeah. So you started to go here, Doug, but I just want to make it even more clear for owners that are listening. A few years ago, practices were thinking through, should I add a cash-based service? Now it's, I need to, and which one should I be adding? As you're helping an owner decide through or think of like a mental model for this, what are some of the first steps that they should be thinking about as they're adding a service? And I'm happy to talk about our experience here as well, because I know you were very supportive as we went through adding RunDNA to our clinics. But yeah, what are like the first step or two? And alongside, if you want to talk about the art of accomplishment, and if you want to intertwine that in here, I think it would be a good time to do that.
That's a great segue into that. I think we can look at it from a practical and a philosophical standpoint when you're looking to add this, right? So practicality, okay, what's going to work? What do I have already? What are my strengths? A way I like to look at this, what would be easy? What is something that would be easy to add where I shouldn't necessarily do something just because everyone else is doing it? I should do the thing that is actually, it's easy. I've got the staff, I've got the space, I've got the demographics, I've got marketing channels in place, I've got relationships in place. Those are the things that when you're thinking about it, we really want to consider of like, hey, you're adding running services. Okay, great. Your best friend or your spouse is like a cross country coach. Great. You're going to have runners coming in the door. That's awesome. Or, hey, you have a really close relationship with the top doc for people with diabetes, right? Oh, okay. Like then maybe I can do some laser because I'm going to treat some diabetic neuropathy. Like, what is the easiest thing for you to do? And that's a big part of it too, because you want this to be easy. It shouldn't feel like a chore. And that's where the Art of Accomplishment podcast that I've been listening comes in on the philosophical side. Like, what do you want to do? What is exciting for you? Because if we think about the difference of want and should, what this podcast that I've been listening to that's called the Art of Accomplishment, and you can find they have these like master classes, and they had each one of these master classes cover different topics, and we talked about want versus should in one of these, and they say that the energy level around want is so much higher. The energy level around should is low, and it feels almost like a negative side effect there with it. So when we're thinking about this, we should think about, what do I want to do? Like, what do I want out of this? And Chad, you and I were talking about this a little bit before. Don't be afraid to admit what you want. Like, don't be afraid to go out there and be bold. I think, Chad, this is one of the things you and Carl and the whole team at Breakthrough do such a good job of like pushing people to acknowledge like what is possible, right? What can we do? And if, what can we do to get the results that we really want that way?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your example, I love your question that you use for people.
Yeah. There's lots of forms of this. Dan Sullivan probably has the one that most practice owners are familiar with. And his question is, if we met, I think it's 12 months or maybe it's 3 years from now, what would have to happen for you personally and professionally to perceive that whatever the course, the event was a success, or their time in practice was a success. So I think for a lot of owners, what I see, Doug, is there's a hesitancy for reach. And I can remember going through this 20 plus years ago with a coach, and they were like, "Hey, what are you trying to do here? Like, what do you really want?" And I was like, I was hesitant because we were in 2,000 square feet at the time. That was our entire practice. It was just me and a PTA. And I said, if we could do this, that would be amazing. And I remember the coach was like, "Oh, you can do, like, that's not going to be hard to do. Like, lots of other people have done that. Are you sure that's like the limit of your goal?" And she said, "You can do anything you want. Like, you can name anything. You could have 500 locations. You could be like, you could do anything that you wanted to do. And what you're saying is like this little bitty goal, like that's what you want to run this local 5K and finish in the top 300. Okay. Like that's not
Or
very
at the
ambitious.
Olympics. Yeah.
Yeah. But she was like, "Okay, let's work on that." By the way, we did what that goal was within 6 months. So like zoom by it. And then
Yeah.
she was like, "Okay, now a little bit more." So for a lot of owners, it's a stepwise progression of like, okay, can I just get my schedule full this week? Can we just create enough revenue that I'm profitable and I'm able to pay myself? Can we just do like grow enough that I can hire somebody so that 3 nights a week or twice a week I'm home with my family for dinner, right? And I don't
Yes.
have to work weekends. So I think it's a great question, and I agree with the podcast and your point on it as well. Like we have to start there. Start with why. If we can't do that, we're going to be in what we want, and we're
Yes.
going to be in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I liked about what they said on the podcast too is they kind of took it even a little step further, and they started saying, don't be afraid to go after things that you want, right? And admit to it there. But start to figure out the next level of want. Okay, so saying I want to hit a certain revenue goal, I want to make $1 million in my clinic this year. That's like something that you could want, and that's absolutely fine. But what do you want that way is like you said, I want to be home for dinner. I want to have financial freedom to not have to come in on Saturday mornings to make sure that I'm making rent. I want to be able to adjust and make my schedule my time and have my patients adjust to my schedule instead of coming at all hours of the day just because I want them coming in. And if you go to that next level, then you can be flexible about that, because that might mean, hey, maybe it's not $1 million. Maybe it is $750,000, or maybe it is you're making the $750,000, but your profit margins are now significantly higher than making $1 million at a lower profit margin. You can be flexible so that you're not getting stuck on the I need to make $1 million, but I'm spending so much money that I don't have that freedom and I can't be home because it took me so much money to get to the million.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to just only because I'm math oriented. So sorry about
Yeah.
this. Uh, like when we were going through the process of, and we have just full transparency, we have two
Yeah.
of the Helix 3D devices, one in our Hershey office, one in the Harrisburg office. When we were going through this, when I talk with my partners and our clinical directors in the decision-making process, we think about it in terms of what is the capacity for revenue. And I remember in the past, you were talking about what you're doing in your office, which was amazing. And we took a look at it for our practice and we said, okay, so if we add in 1 unit, that to me represents an extra $100 an hour
Yeah.
above and beyond what we're doing today at minimum. 40 hours a week, that's 4,000. So that's 200K a year is our expectation at full capacity. So with 2 units, it would be an extra $400,000 in rev. And this is what that means to our bottom line, how it changes our business. And what does that mean for us? We can compensate our employees better, right? Like that is an easy one. The other thing that I've noticed, and this is kind of like a collateral benefit, is we now have practices talking about and clinicians saying like, "Oh, I want to go to the place where they're offering like the most up-to-date technology." So
Absolutely.
that is a whole new game changer that we didn't even really plan on. But yeah, so for us, it is in alignment. I know you've shared with me target market for the running analysis
Yes.
is let's see how I do here. 38 to 52-year-old,
Yeah.
typically a female runner.
Correct. Yeah.
And 44 is, if we want to get very specific, that is
That's a sweet spot.
that's the avatar. And so like when we were looking at rolling this out, for us, and one of the things you just mentioned is like, do we already have access to that market? So we have the cross-country coaches on our patient list. We have that target demographic on our patient list. We have relationships with running specialty stores that make this a no-brainer to roll out for us as well. So can you think through, because I think that is the alignment for listeners. Is there any other aspect of the alignment they should be thinking through, or for like misalignment? Is there an example that you can think of where they're like, okay, like that doesn't fit what I'm thinking about, therefore I should eliminate that specific cash-based service. Otherwise, we try to do everything.
Right. Yeah. And there's only so many hours in the day. And that's why it's like, it's the practical and the philosophical, right? You have to have a little bit of both. I think, one of the things that you really have in place too, that is a strength and probably made the decision much easier. Has been even very evident as we've started to go through the training process, and because we spend a lot of time onboarding people. There's a lot that goes into it where we say, hey, you're buying a Ferrari, we're going to teach you how to drive. And I think that biggest thing for you is a champion of that. Having the people that are like, right now, we know that it's really hard to hire a physical therapist. There we go.
I wrote champion down to ask you. Yeah. That very true. How does an owner identify that? Because I know what we did, but how would you identify a champion as a practice?
I would say one of the things that you should look for is somebody that really wants to be asked for by name by a specific clientele. If you have somebody that says, I want to be, this was me when I was coming out of school, I'm Doug Adams, I want to be the go-to running professional for anybody in this area. If a fast high school cross-country runner comes in and I'm not seeing them or they're not requesting me, I'm not doing a good job.
Yeah.
Like that is what you really want to have. And that person, when you get them aligned and incentivized to do well, you are going to see tremendous success from incorporating something like RunDNA. I think that's a huge part of it.
Now invert it. Go back to what would be something that, a misalignment and help an owner like avoid that misalignment for who they're.
I think
yeah.
The person that just expects like, if you build it, they will come. Right? Like if you just think that you're going to go and the patients and the clients are just going to come in and you're not going to have to market this, you're not going to have to develop relationships, you're not going to have to do anything there. If that's what you're expecting, that's not how a lot of these work. That's not just a RunDNA thing. I think that's not how any of these services work. I think the misalignments are like, hey, I bought your device. Where's my runners? Kind of coming in here. And it's like, we're giving you a tool. We're giving you the ability to really train your staff, retain your staff, offer extreme value to your customers. All of those things are important. But unfortunately, in the physical therapy practice, there's this mindset of, and I don't know if this comes from, we've been, especially the more mature population in physical therapy, but it's like, oh, physicians will just send me patients. This will be good. I won't have to do anything. It's like, no, you got to go out there. I mean, I'm watching, this has been really enjoyable and exciting for me, watching you guys roll out RunDNA and seeing what are the efforts that you've done. I mean, you shared with me your Fleet Feet story, which was incredible, right?
Yeah,
that's
we
what you have to do.
That here. Yeah, that was a win. I did have that written down to share. So we have had a long relationship with several specialty running stores. So when we're marketing, when we're rolling out a new service, we think, who's the target market? You gave that to us, 38 to 52. Yeah. And then we think through, where else is that target market on somebody's list? So we know for us, it's going to be Inside Track, Fleet Feet, and Appalachian Running Company here locally. Mm-hmm. just as a few examples. So we want to go there and create relationships. Well, luckily, we've already had relationships there for years with those those other partners is really what they are. So then as we were building out and our champions were learning to use the RunDNA running analysis, what we were doing is we started inviting those team members of those companies in, those partners in, and just running workshops. So we're not selling them anything. This is just like, hey, we know that you talk with a ton of runners. You want to help them. Think about it from the pain point of the running store. The worst thing that can happen is one of their customers, the doctor looks at them and says, hey, by the way, you can't run anymore. Because now they stop buying shoes. Now they stop training. Now they're not buying running gear anymore. Like the whole thing is a disaster for them. So what we did is, we just said, hey, we'll run a workshop for you. We brought the team in. I know I was treating one of my kids after hours while the RunDNA workshop was going on for Fleet Feet. And I think there were 14 or 15 team members there. And so Noah Espenshade, who is really our champion here in Harrisburg with Dan Hinterschitz, they were running the workshop. Noah was doing a before and after with one of the team members who is a competitive runner. And they did the before and after run scores. And as I was walking through, I heard them talk about it. And he said, okay, before you were, I don't know what 31, now you're a 14. And the whole room went, ooh. So it was like instant buy-in, like this is a big deal. Now, does everybody in the room know exactly what that means in terms of running performance and better mileage? No, but it was like we had that wow factor that gives them something to talk with their clients about, their customers about as they go back. So that was really cool. And I love that story, and I'll be telling that one for a while.
That's like, it's such a key differentiator, right? And somebody that you had seen every day or, at least every week at jiu-jitsu, like the other story you said, that it stood out. It was something different. It was something worth talking about, right? Yeah. We want that word of mouth. And if it's something worth talking about, something unique, something exciting, then people will talk about it there, which is a big part that I don't think we always give credit to in the physical therapy space.
Yeah. Here's a crazy question for you that we didn't plan on, but from your answer, you talked about when you first came out of school that you wanted to be the person in your area that when a runner was hurt, that you were really top of mind, right? Yes. I'm going to call Doug Adams. He's the guy that can fix me. And if that wasn't happening, that you would feel like that you weren't doing your job in education or promotion, marketing your services, et cetera. I would argue that like right now in the country, you are easily that person. Is that fair?
I see. Yes, we get a lot of people travel in. We treat a lot of professional runners. So yes, yeah, we have developed a reputation for that.
Okay, great. So, and I think I went through something very similar with pelvic and SI joint pain. I remember seeing Richard Jackson when I was fresh coming out of school doing a course and I know you work with the Jackson clinics right now. And I was like, wow, like this guy's in Middleburg, Virginia. People travel from all over the country to see him. How crazy would that be? Like it was the first time, like with the magic wand, that my universe expanded.
Yes.
So you went from local and did you first practice in Delaware when you graduated?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So same area. And then eventually that expanded. Do you remember what happened where you were like, oh, like I can have a little more reach here than my town here in Delaware?
Yeah, where the transition point happened. It started kind of regionally at first, where and it came from really just trying to demonstrate as much value at each level. I think going back and looking retrospectively, I didn't see success maybe as much as I wanted to in the first year or two, because I was actually really focused not just on like locally, but I was focused on nationally. I really wanted to work with Olympics. I really wanted to do like all this stuff with Olympic athletes. And I wasn't focusing on showing up for my existing audience. and delivering extreme value.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really critical part as you go from local to, multi-city to regional to national to international. You just have to make sure that you're delivering extreme value every way you go. And it's, I had the fastest high school kid in Delaware wound up running fast in college. And then the college coach started sending me their athletes. And then I started to meet more college kids. And then some of those college kids became professionals. And then they wanted to see me once they were professionals. And then I got to be a team PT for a professional team. And then it was like other athletes wanted to start to see me. And then I started getting like MLB players coming in who were getting hamstring issues. And, but just focus on delivering the value for your existing. And then when you see an opportunity to nudge it out a little bit, take it.
Yeah. So it sounds like, if I can recap it, it's really sticking to the fundamentals.
Yes.
Right,
absolutely. I appreciate my whole career of like, listen, do the fundamentals really well and know when to do it. Like, I'm not a Instagram exercise guy. I'm not going to put like these wild exercises on Instagram of like, look at me doing this wild exercise on one foot, tapping my nose. Like, no, like I just like, I started before I really worked with a lot of runners, I was ACL guy, and I got great results because I learned how to teach a quad set better than anybody. It's still a skill set that I think like I'm pretty proud. I can teach anybody how to do a quad set without hamstring co-contraction.
wow.
Yeah. Like that's my skill set. I just mastered that as best as I could. And then none of my patients had anterior knee pain. And then I started working on their gait. And then I started working on a lateral step down. And I got good at each skill set. But it's like, I got really good at doing a lateral step down and a quad set. And because of that, I saw 2 professional league MVPs within the same year.
Nice.
Because I could do a quad set, not because I had some Instagram worthy exercise.
Cool. And I'm going to guess that there's, what are you close to? Philadelphia and Washington.
Yes.
We'll leave it at that.
Yes. Yep.
Great. As a baseball guy, just I'm running through.
Yes.
It would be great if you could talk about gait analysis, because like you said, for many of us, we are seeing patients with gait issues. Mm-hmm. And I know like you and I've talked in the past, Doug, because we have, Sue Whitney will come in every few years from University of Pittsburgh, and she trains us on like, balance and, really balance screens that were part of PQRS years ago with Medicare, and now we still do them to look for issues. And I think we're doing like timed up and go, sit to stand, and then gait speed. And that really just identifies whether there's a problem or not. Can you talk about what you're doing and you've developed with gait analysis, and how the average owner, can think about rolling that into their practice and really augmenting their practice as well?
Yeah, I'm going to try a new analogy I've been trying out here, and I want you to give me feedback and tell me if it hits, right? So because this is a like pseudo business, pseudo clinical, like a little bit of both there, I'm going to talk about lead and lag indicators.
Perfect.
Okay. So in the business concept of that, right, a lead indicator tells you where you're going. A lag indicator kind of tells you what's been happening, but you don't really always understand why. And with Gait, we really want to understand why it's happening. And the example that you gave, if you're doing a tug, if you're doing PQRS, if you're doing lots of different balance and speed skills, that's great. It tells you where that person is at this single point in time, but it doesn't tell you why they're there and what they need to do to get from that 21-second tug down to a 10-second tug. It just tells you they're at 21 seconds, their fall risk is pretty high. And that's not really helpful for what we should be doing. And it's not giving us an idea of the plan of care other than just justifying that we do need care. So Gait can be that lead indicator where it's going to say to us, hey, this person walking, their push off on their right side is 10 degrees less than that left side. And we know that somebody that starts to lack strength in their calf and strength in their big toes, we know that they might be at a significantly higher risk of falling. So by identifying that, we can then develop a plan of care where we're saying, all right, let's assess your calf strength. Let's assess your toe flexor strength. And then we're going to give you a plan of care. And then we're going to incorporate it back into your gait so that we're taking those mobility and stability things and incorporating them back into function. Because we know mobility and stability are not ability. And function is most often related to something with gait. So even within gait, we can say, like, taking it to the running side of things, a lot of people, I think this is one of the challenges with people wanting to incorporate high level gait analysis, is they're looking at good enough, and they're looking at some of those lag indicators, things like cadence or step length, or they're looking at some of that stuff. And those are lag indicators within gait. Yeah. So somebody that has a low cadence when they're running, is that because they're tight? Is that because they're weak? Is it because they don't have the skill? We don't know unless we actually look. But if you do a 3D analysis, you're going to know exactly, because you can say, oh, push off is off. They're like, pelvic drop is here. They're lacking stability, so they can't generate enough force. So they're staying on the ground for longer because their hip isn't stable, and therefore they're prolonging their gait. So that's, let me know what you think of the new lead versus lag indicator here, but that's how I've been describing gait and the benefit of it.
Yeah. Within the last 24 hours, I read this pretty big report on KPIs and leading lagging indicators. So very much relatable. I think everybody's going to understand it. It's going to resonate. But yeah, I mean, you're getting to more predictably cause and effect.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, completely understand. I think with a little bit of polishing, we'll be hearing a lot more. No. I think the length is good. And you're sharing a clinical story too, which is always relatable. I want to talk about selling. So, because this is for us at least, and I'll give you an example. We rolled out a cash pay service within the last 6 months. And as part of that, in the very beginning, we hit just huge numbers, right? So, and this was not a RunDNA service, but huge numbers, way above, on a national level. I get to talk with hundreds of practices. I'm going to say we were in the top 1% of any performance that I had ever heard. Yeah. Then in one case, I know a clinician got beat up a little bit. So recommended a service. The patient went through the service, did not think it was valuable. And then what happened with that clinician is they just completely stopped the service altogether. So that was one scenario. But basically what happened is we stopped breathing life into this cash pay service, and it returned to their previous levels. However, at the same time, our directors recognize that it's really a sales issue. For the clinicians, they're diagnosing the wallet, right? They're going through saying, hey, I don't want to ask somebody to buy a service that they don't need. And I don't want to be put in a position where I'm trying to convince them to do something that they really don't want to do. If we talk with them long enough, the best clinicians will always have an assumption hey, I'm in front of you to serve you. I want to be valuable to you. If I have a service that I'm withholding, that's I'm doing you a disservice, right? By withholding that running analysis or laser or shockwave device or hyperbaric oxygen therapy, whatever the cash pay service is. So how do you help? By the way, you do an amazing job at this. And just for all the listeners, Doug did a training that when you came in and onboarded our 14 or 15 clinicians, where we were really looking for champions. That's secretly what we were doing, right? Who really wants to step forward here, and I think we found our RunDNA champions. But Mike, I remember Mike Gilbert, my original partner here within our practice, he said that 1 hour is like the best 1 hour that I've ever heard. He was like, I can't believe we didn't record that. Every single one of our clinicians needs to hear this, because we are in a situation where we have to serve the people in front of us. And if we're coming out of school with $350,000 in debt and we're under tremendous financial pressure, and then we get an opportunity to be more valuable within society, and then we're not taking advantage of that, or actually we're withholding value, that creates a real conundrum. And like what you said, address that. So can you talk about your viewpoint on sales, how we can help clinicians avoid that feeling, and also how they can better serve the people in front of them?
Yeah. It's great too, and I love the receptivity to it, because it also takes a certain organization to be open to that type thing and to be open to continually improving, and you have to create a culture around that. So I think that the first step is really just having a culture that's open to pushing and expanding and growing at every step of the way. And that was something that struck me as absolutely true at Madden Gilbert. It was just an organization that wanted to learn and to grow. So I think that that's kind of a foundational aspect of sales there, of somebody that's willing to look at it from a different perspective, as opposed to holding on to a viewpoint and saying, well, that's just not us. We're just going to keep treating, and all we're going to do is just try to see more visits. That's all we want to do. We'll just get more visits. That's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to grow. So I think that's an important part.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So the clinician, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you've had it in your clinics or you've seen it
Yes.
out, the clinician that is hesitant or is shy
Yes.
on offering cash-based services or recommendations, or is diagnosing a wallet and like backing off
Yeah.
before they even make the recommendation. And I know you do an analogy or a story around, I think it's with Z-Pack, like a physician recommends
Yes.
writing a
Yeah.
prescription. Can you talk through that and how you help clinicians
Yeah.
think about that better?
Yeah, this and like Chad said, this is like an hour plus long training. I think it's actually almost 2 hours, and I did it like an hour version for you, like for you guys. And there's more to it that we teach a lot of our Helix users. But one of the things in the stories that we say is, the main point of it is, I cannot determine what you value. I am not able to understand what that is. And I give the analogy of, if you go into your physician and you say, I've had this sinus infection for the past 3 or 4 weeks. I tried everything over the counter. I'm sleeping more. I'm doing everything, but I can't get rid of it. And the physician looks at you and says, well, it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to do a Z-Pack? Do you want to do this inhaler? I could give you this. This one's a little expensive for the nasal spray. It gets faster results, but we could do that too. If they did that, you'd be like, I don't know, doc. You're the doctor. What do you want me to do here? Like, tell me what I need to do. And if you had that experience at a physician's office, you would not be happy. If you have that, but now if you step back and look at some of your customer interactions there, that's exactly what we're doing to a lot of our customers. We're saying, well, we could do this, and it would be helpful if we had a gait analysis, because then I might understand a little bit more what the root cause is. And I could do the shock wave. It's a little expensive. I don't know if you want to commit to it. We need to do 4 sessions before. But I can also just start giving you some exercise, and let's see where it's at in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like you're assuming that person, what they value. You're assuming that they don't value this. And I tell another story here. Like, when we first opened my practice, one of my best customers, I charge $200 an hour. I charge $500 for a gait analysis. One of my best clients early on worked at a fast food chain.
Yeah.
They were making $15 an hour and paying me $200 an hour. And I had zero guilt about that, because that person valued so much of what we did. They loved to run. It was such a big part of their life. They didn't do other things. They weren't going to the movies. They weren't going out drinking. They loved running. And that person, when they came in, got so much value from what we offered, and they were so happy leaving there that I had zero guilt about charging that person. I didn't give them a discount. I didn't do anything. I was helping that person really get value out of what they did. And that's what selling is. It's like delivering value to the people that appreciate that.
Love it. Great. A couple more questions here, but I want to give you an opportunity. If somebody wants to learn more about RunDNA, what's the best way for a practice owner to get in contact with you?
Yes, I would. You can go on to the website, rundna.com, and we do a consultation to all these things that we talked about. We have a process. We want to understand if this is right for you. And if you book a consultation through the website, that's going to have our availability. Let's have a conversation. It's a no pressure kind of thing. Or you can just email us directly at sales@rundna.com if you have some questions before you commit to a little time thing. But a quick 15 or 20-minute call, we're going to help you. And a lot of people say that it actually is really helpful for their business to be able to kind of understand like where they're at and maybe where some of the gaps are. Because we'll tell you flat out like, hey, we don't think that you're ready for this yet. You don't have a champion, or, you're not really open to some of these concepts. So work on this stuff and let's have an ongoing conversation, and let's keep talking and over the next 6 to 12 months and see if it's a fit then.
Yeah, love it. But you're spot on about identifying the champion. I know we had 15 clinicians go through your training, and then I think we identified 3 or 4 that were really motivated to get this running, and that's who's doing the most.
They're rocking it. Yeah, they're doing great. Yeah.
Now that creates a whole other problem for us. We have to figure out how to compensate them the right way.
Good problems. Good problems.
It is a great problem. So one of the other things in that training, that 1 hour you did for us, Doug, is you talked about time-based versus value-based thinking, and how clinicians and owners need to shift. Can you share a little bit about that, and anything that is relevant for our listeners? Because I think it's a crucial, pivotal point for us within the private practice journey to understand that.
Yeah. I mean, what is the value of somebody that has been training for a marathon? They're 3 weeks out and they don't think they're going to complete it after spending the last 6 months getting ready for it. What is the value of them being able to go from painful and in despair to hopeful and running pain-free? If you can deliver that, that is tremendous value.
Yeah.
Whether it took you 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, that's irrelevant. It's you're delivering value. And we're in this culture of 8 minutes for a code and then 15-minute rules after that. But I tell you what, in that story I shared at the beginning, in 6 minutes, I delivered a ton of value for that person that they were extremely satisfied with. And probably, if I was charging them at that point, this was just kind of setting up for the course, that would have been worth $200 right there. No problem. For 6 minutes there. It doesn't have to be time-based. But I wouldn't have made a code. I was 2 minutes shy of charging a code for it.
Yeah. My guess is she would have paid 5 or 10K.
Yeah.
For the result. Yeah.
If I had asked her, hey, if I could get you to run pain-free for the rest of your training program, what would you pay for that? And that's a different way of saying it. Like, if I could get you, and that's where those questions we talked about in the beginning, like, hey, what's the impact of this? What would it mean to get to the root cause? And what are you willing to do to get rid of these issues? Asking, like at Omega Project, my clinics, we ask every single client those 3 questions. Those are like almost a standard part of our evaluation. As much as autonomy we give our clinicians, that's just something we've all agreed upon is a great way to get people in the value mindset as opposed to the time mindset of, great, are you willing to come 3 times a week for 4 weeks for the next, like, no, it's like, what are you willing to do? I want to do anything to be able to run that Boston qualifier.
Love it. Last question. You talked about in that training about discharge is a 4-letter word.
Yes.
I know today you have a standing appointment, I think, with somebody that you've been seeing for years, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Um, so can you go into that philosophy a little bit? Because I know within our profession that like there's some pride in, well, I saw this person for 3 visits, they're pain free now, and I'm discharging them. And if I did my job, they never have to come see me again. I heard another clinician, it's one of our clinicians, say that in a paraphrased way within the last week, and I was like, hey, like that, but that person's going to go live life. Like they're
Yes.
going to have other problems. You want to be the person that they call first, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, can you talk about that mindset and how you think through that?
I mean, there's so many professions in the medical field that are that go-to. Your physician, your dentist, your ophthalmologist, like none of those people are discharging any clients there.
Yeah,
They realize that like morphologically, things are going to change over time. And it does have to be the right person. And it goes back to the what we just talked about before, value.
yeah,
What value is that person getting out of it? The person that has a standing appointment, it is not day in, day out the same thing. I am not doing the same thing. We are working on different things to try to get them to different levels. And they are continually looking to get to a different level and to address different things. And because of the way that we treat, that is why we are constantly evaluating. And that's why I feel like I am not doing anything unethical or immoral with that way, because if there's so many things that we could work on, right? If you get somebody like, let's take back to that one example of that person that's running without pain now. Okay. I can just pat myself on the back and say, like, great job, 6 minutes, Doug, way to fix somebody. But what I haven't done yet is I haven't looked at them at faster speeds. I haven't looked at their foot intrinsics. I haven't looked at their ability to do plyometrics. I haven't looked at just their general training program to see why they got injured in the first place. These are all things that we can go beyond, and physical therapists specifically and athletic trainers and like we have this unique background that we can provide a higher level of service and go beyond. And when we do the selling talk, we call this value beyond care.
yeah,
This is going beyond just the care that you're providing, taking it to the next level and guiding them to where their potential is. Just like we talked about, your coach said, okay, what if you could have 500 clinics?
yeah,
Do the same thing for your clients. And maybe this is a way to get more clinicians to start thinking differently about it. Like, what are we encouraging our patients to do? How do we want them setting goals? And then why are we not taking our own advice as business owners about pushing beyond the absence of pain being health?
yeah.
What if we actually like excelled and did well?
Love it. Doug, this was amazing. Anything else holding your attention other than the art of accomplishment that you want to share?
Mm. Um, let's see. A book I'm reading 3 months in a row is called Meditation for Mortals. It's by the guy who wrote 4,000 Weeks.
Oh, nice.
And yes, Ed B. I'm not reading the cover every day, but I'm reading the content every day. But Meditations for Mortals. I just got a new golden retriever puppy, so we're getting up early in the morning, and they're like 5 to 8 minute meditations, and they're 4 weeks, so it's 28 meditations, and it's not your typical like sit down and all meditation. It's like it's talking this morning talked about embracing distractions. It talks about being a super yacht versus a kayak in the river of life. Like it's there, it's really like for mortals is appropriate. And I highly recommend, I'm going to read it 3 months in a row so that I would be able to just list all of those 28 things without having to think about it.
Love it. Awesome. Well, great recommendations. For everybody that's listening, one more time, can you share how to get in touch with you?
Yes. If you have questions specifically for me too, I'm happy to share. My own email is Doug, DOUG, at rundna.com. If you're interested to see if you would be a good site for this. Also, I should mention too, a lot of people come to us through education. Like not everyone is ready for the technology, but the concepts that we teach of how to evaluate gait, how to do that, we have a ton of education courses. We're close to like 25,000 people that have taken our education now for that. So that's another great way to see if this might be a fit for what you're looking for too.
Love it. Awesome. Doug Adams, RunDNA. Thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks, Chad. Really appreciate it.